are so excited to have you here. We have been planning this for a long time, and we want you to walk away from here having had fun, but also gaining more wisdom on how to go back to your schools and take a stand against bullying, like be a force for kindness. I want to introduce Sydney Parlett. She is a student, a 9th grader at Northern High School. Sydney enjoys writing poems and songs, loves to draw, and loves dancing for fun. This year she played soccer, basketball, and is currently playing softball for Northern. Sydney takes a responsibility in student government as well as 9th grade class council. Please welcome Sydney Parlett. Sydney does have some sensitive topics she may discuss, and if you find that you are having trouble listening to those issues, you can feel free to excuse yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As you have heard, my name is Sydney Parlett, a 9th grader from Northern High School. I see some familiar faces and some new, but ultimately I'm just truly elated to be in a room of people supporting the same cause and working to resolve the same problem. It's a blessing to take the floor this morning. On a second note, I unfortunately have to begin this speech with a disclaimer. Although very optimistic for change, I'm aware that there is in fact no set-in-stone solution to abolish bullying. It's quite an inevitable characteristic belonging to some. There are no specific parts of the world more immune to bullying than others. However, schools are considerable institutions in which bullying commonly occurs. Bullying throughout the millennial generation can be sprung up in a variety of ways. Once a child holds the belief that they are better than another, maybe they own nicer shoes, or their hair is more appealing, or they can make the catch while the other cannot. That self-assured child may need to boast about it, for attention or simply to promote their own self-confidence. Or it could be the complete opposite. For example, a child may resort to the fact that he or she is flawed. However, he or she may not be able to accept that fact. Therefore, this child will lash out on others, pointing out their flaws or their deformities in order to boost one's self-confidence. Another reason why bullying occurs is because the antagonist was once a victim themselves. This creates a need, an urgency, to take revenge on other children in order to reach a state of satisfaction in their life. Another reason that this action begins is that the child may have been raised from an unstable upbringing, which has in turn caused emotional instability within the child. Being the way that they are has been learned from an example, and it is all that they know. The last reason that this action occurs, and primarily in schools, that I personally have witnessed the most, would be picking on the weak simply to be viewed as the class clown, in order to try to make others laugh. Truthfully, there are many different possibilities that brings about bullying, and bullying will forever be a worldwide societal challenge. However, on a more positive and encouraging note, there are ways we can halt this unfaithful occurrence. I want to help, and I want to make a change, as I'm sure many of you do as well. The way that this begins is with the societal awareness of the problem, the educating of those causing this issue. Easier said than done, as I'm aware of. However, these bullies, the students, and just your average everyday American is oblivious to the facts. As I will attempt to refrain from boring you with statistics, it is beneficial that you are all aware of the data and prevalence as well. What blows my mind most about bullying is the fact that it occurs all around us, all the time. And just to test this theory, I want to conduct a small experiment. Please don't be embarrassed to participate. There's a reason behind it, and the more accurate the results, the larger the impact. Now, I want anyone in the room to stand up if you personally have ever been in a bullying situation. Now, if you're still seated, I want anyone in the room to stand up if you've personally ever witnessed a bullying situation. If you're still seated, stand up if you ever heard about a bullying situation from a classmate, a friend, a teacher, the news, etc. Take a look around and make a mental observation of what you see. Nearly everyone in the room has stood up. Thank you. You may be seated. 1 in 3 students will be bullied at school. Bullying happens everywhere, all the time. But what's worse than that extremely high ratio is that 70% of students have witnessed a bullying situation. And 70% of students are bystanders, refusing to intervene or take action in this bullying situation. 7 out of 10. As nearly everyone in the room stood up when asked if they have ever witnessed or experienced a bullying situation, I would imagine we'd experience similar results when asked in a classroom, a cafeteria, or a whole school for that matter. But the fact is that if these students can stand up for bullying, for knowing what it is and being able to determine when you've experienced it, then why can't they, why can't we, why can't everyone stand up against it? Just the other day, I was having a pretty decent time. I made it through all my classes and had a smile on my face walking into one of my last periods of the day. Suddenly, the kids at my table and I got on the subject of bullying. Clearly, I have a little experience in that area, so although it pains me to talk about, I know some things that others may not know. So I use opportunities like this to educate those that may not know much about it. However, my mood quickly took a major turn. A kid turned to me, straight-faced, stern, and had the audacity to preach the opinion that bullying isn't real. And I kind of just sat there shocked for a second, each word hitting me like a brick. What people don't understand is that it isn't just bullying, and that's it. Bullying isn't just the mean kids preying on the weak and helpless, and nothing is developed from that platform. Bullying goes miles beneath the surface, and there's so many different societal challenges that derive from bullying. As we speak, there are nearly 160,000 students skipping school today because of the fear of bullying. And it's not just today. Nearly 160,000 students skip school each and every day because of this fear. And on top of that, 1 in 10 students will drop out of school completely because of this fear. Bullying takes a major toll on a student victim's education. Aside from prompting the students to skip class, students who are bullied feel disconnected from school, which prompts them to dislike it, have lower academic outcomes, including both lower attendance and completion rates, as I mentioned a second ago. They lack quality friendships at school, display high levels of emotion that indicate vulnerability and low levels of resilience, become less well accepted by peers, avoid conflict, and become socially withdrawn, have a lowered self-esteem and feelings of insecurity, have or become victims of depression, anxiety, feelings of loneliness and isolation, have nightmares, feel wary and suspicious of others, have an increased risk of substance abuse from this depressive state, and in extreme cases, this unfortunately moves us on to a more sensitive, touchy subject, suicide. People, and young kids especially, don't begin to understand how strong the connection between these two societal challenges are. It is commonly underestimated. As I researched the link between the two, bullying and suicide, the numbers and statistics were honestly horrific. I had previously known that common suicide cases were caused by bullying, but although these types of situations have occurred in the movies, the statistical reality hits you like a brick wall, and there are no ways to explain the blood-curdling truth until you hear it for yourself. To continue staying on the path of the subject of bullying, I will present only information that suggests the ties between the two challenges. However, as we are aware of, suicide is so common. In fact, it is the third leading cause of death among adolescents, resulting in about 4,400 deaths per year. And on top of that, for every youth suicide, there are approximately more than 100 suicide attempts. 440,000 adolescents are either taking their own life or attempting to take their own life every single year. And the number isn't going down. Since 1999, the over-suicide rate in America has increased by 30%. And in some states, including Kansas, North Dakota, and Minnesota, the number of suicides has increased by 40% or more. This increasing percentage has left people around the globe dumbfounded, having no sense of direction or knowing which way to turn from here. However, it's honestly no big secret that a huge portion of this growing number of suicides is dedicated to bullying. That is what people overlook, and bullying is undoubtedly underestimated when examining the suicide increase. However, from a statistical standpoint, the tie is quite evident. Studies show that bully victims are between 2 to 9 times more likely to consider suicide. A study that was conducted in Britain found that at least half of suicides among 10 to 14-year-olds are related to bullying. Charity Beat Bullying research there were 59 cases of child suicide reported in the national media between 2000 and 2008, 26 of which were definitely connected to bullying. Official data also recorded 1,769 of 15 to 19-year-olds between 2000 and 2008, which indicated that the total number of bullying-related adolescent suicides could be in the hundreds. School is becoming less of an educational institution and more of an abusive battleground. More popularity contests, more spreading drama and rumors, and less focus on trustworthy, reliable friendships in the actual use of school for education. What makes the bullying situation at schools even worse than it already is would be lack of administrative interference with these bullying occurrences. You can attempt to deny it or discourage my faith in this belief. However, the evidence is undeniable. This is not a theory or a myth or something I've come up with in my head. The evidence is prevalent. In fact, according to studies, over 67% of students believe that schools respond poorly to bullying, with a very high percentage with the belief that adult help when it comes to bullying is very infrequent and inefficient. And on top of that, 1 in 4 teachers see there's absolutely nothing wrong with bullying and will only intervene in a bullying situation 4% of the time. However, I'm aware that only 20 to 30% of students who are bullied actually notify adults about the case, possibly due to the lack of open communications between staff and students. While writing this speech, I had an epiphany. While overlooking my academic career, out of all the great and wonderful teachers I've had in Calvert County, unfortunately only one teacher has ever explicitly mentioned being an outlet for students seeking help or going through a bullying situation at the beginning of the school year. And what I want to emphasize as a student and an observer of adolescence and the school environment, while teachers mentioning the point I said is important for every single grade in elementary, middle, and high school, the importance becomes critical as years progress and children are becoming adults. At the beginning of my school year, my 9th grade homeroom class had to overlook the Calvert County Code of Conduct. We got into the subject of bullying and harassment. It was, of course, a touchy subject, and I'm sure there are many students in that very classroom that have undergone such situations. Coach Frowns, my health and team sports teacher, made it a point, a necessity, to tell students in my class that if we are ever dealing with any issues, whether it be something as extensive as bullying or something small, he is always an outlet to talk to, an outlet for help we needed to resolve a problem. The point I'm trying to make is that teachers and administration need to make it a priority to ensure the safety of their students. Besides their focus being primarily on academics, they need to be a helping hand and a crutch for students going through situations that make them want to fall to their knees. On top of teachers being there for us academically, students need to feel that they can go to their teachers when dealing with issues in their personal lives. Maybe there are restrictions and policies prohibiting teachers from allowing students to console their problems with them. I don't know. But all teachers should allow students to confide in them and seek their help and protection if being bullied or harassed. If there is a policy prohibiting such teacher interaction, this policy must be changed to protect the lives of bully victims. If the school system in general is unwilling to make these changes and accommodations for bullying victims, the problems will only get worse. Bullying is the cause of more problems than just the one I've mentioned. I unfortunately am about to enter another touchy, sensitive subject, but it needs to be talked about. School shootings. It should be obvious to everyone that there's been a rapid increase in mass shootings in America recently. More people have died or been injured in mass shootings in the United States in the past 18 years, the entire 20th century. School shootings are on the rise, and the rate definitely is not going down. What people don't understand is that there is a strong connection between bullying and mass shootings. Although we cannot halt school shootings immediately, we can cut it off by the source. Examples of school shootings prompted by bullying have been explicitly shown throughout history, including the one I'm about to share. As you know, there was a devastating tragedy that took place on the afternoon of February 14, 2018, a school shooting. This event led to the casualties of 17 student and staff attending Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and caused an additional 14 human beings to be taken to the hospital. This was labeled one of the world's deadliest school massacres. However, some are unaware of the primary reason that led Nicholas Jacob Cruz to take such extreme action. Cruz is a 5'9", 120-pound 19-year-old. His scrawny physical stature, his awkward personality, and his diagnosis of autism made him an easy target for bullies. Gold, one of Cruz's only friends, claimed that Cruz's school life was particularly difficult to watch. Right away, Gold recalled that Nicholas needed psychological help. He would constantly bang his head with his hands and would lose control even over minor things. Gold mentioned that at one time, Nicholas even smashed golf clubs against a car. Cruz struggled to make friends and was often ostracized. Gold recollected a time seeing Cruz attempt to befriend and ride bikes with some of the neighborhood kids, but they brushed him off and called him names. Gold quoted, "He would come over after school and was visibly upset about being teased, but he pretended that he really didn't care. Despite his mother's attention, he just felt horribly unloved and felt he had no one to turn to." Kids at school would mock Cruz for being a loner. Alvarez, a 17-year-old attending the same school as Cruz, reminisced in time in which Cruz was teased. At that point, Cruz was already getting attention for his bizarre social media posts, including pictures of himself with knives and guns, and others in which he showed off animals that he had butchered. Although being bullied and teased as an adolescent is never, ever a valid excuse for stripping a man of his life, taking a son away from a mother, taking a sister away from a brother, it is noticeable that bullying creates an indescribable mental vulnerability that can urge someone to do something as impactful as this. There are also studies conducted in a 2011 Harvard School of Health study that points to the fact that male bullies are nearly 4 times as likely as non-bullies to grow up and physically or sexually abuse their female partners. The studies also show that by the age of 24, 60% of former bullies have been convicted of a criminal charge at least once. As proven, the effects of bullying are endless for the bully, for the victim, for the bystanders, for everyone. And if we can halt the number of bullying occurrences, we can halt the increasing amount of deadly effects. What makes this speech and summit so personal to me is the fact that I am personally a bully victim myself. And no, of course, I'm asking for no sympathy, as I'm sure I'm not the only one in the room that has underwent this occurrence. And by no means does being a bully victim make me special. However, I've learned a lot by it, and in a way, it has shaped me to become the person I am today. It all began in 3rd grade. You look like a monkey, you are a monkey, your ears make you look like a monkey. I'd walk into the morning self-conscious of the way I looked and fearing I'd hear the same slurs I heard the previous day. And after school, I'd walk in my home,